Hi there, this is Pete. Welcome to Chicken Noodle Code. Today we'll explore one of my favorite extensions for VS Code, Live Preview. That extension is super awesome because you can kind of see your design being put together in real time as you're coding. So let's check it out.
All right, before we start, this is our Visual Studio Code as it usually looks when you open it the first time. Well, actually, no, there's the getting started with VS Code that you would usually see, so we can choose a theme and tune your settings and whatnot. But I'm going to go straight to extensions. In extensions, we're going to look for Live Preview. And that's one of the original Microsoft extensions that basically works out of the box once we install it. And it's a super useful tool. All right, here on the extensions page, they basically show you how to use it. And that's what it looks like. So we're going to have a split screen option, and it's going to render the website on the right-hand side within VS Code. We can also refresh in there, and yeah, it's going to be a whole lot easier. But the cool part is actually, as I'm typing my HTML and CSS, it's going to update in real time. And instead of flicking back and forth between the browser and VS Code, I could just keep prototyping in one window, and yeah, therefore it's less distracting, and yeah, it's super fun. So let's check it out. So now it has to, oh no, it's already installed, enabled. So I'm going to the Explorer. I'm going to open a folder on my desktop. So this is going to be an HTML base template that I'm creating. So I'll call this one HTML base, maybe with an underscore. All right, create. And then I say open. So it's going to open that folder on my desktop. Here I still have the welcome screen, so I'm going to close that. In my HTML base, I'm just going to add a new file called index.html. So one of the things that's maybe important to know, so the preview button, which is up here on the top right, it only shows up on an HTML file. It doesn't show up in the CSS file. Basically, when I'm doing my prototyping and I'm editing inside of CSS and then I want to do the preview, it does not work out of CSS. So you have to switch to the actual HTML file that it is linked to. So I'm going to now add the exclamation mark. This is the HTML snippet from Emmet, and enter. I'm going to call this one HTML base. Oops. Now we're going to go save this. We could already now look at the preview. Obviously, we don't have anything to look at other than the tab title, which says now HTML base. So you saw I clicked that preview button, and now there's nothing on the page, which is absolutely normal. So we have to at least type in H1 and HTML base template. And then we can kind of see it in real time, which is super geeky. And save. You don't even have to save. That's the cool thing. Like as you type new things, let's say, yeah, here's Copilot chiming in. You see that. This is basic HTML structure. Thanks for that. I'm going to save this. But like I said, for the rendering, you don't even have to save anymore. So it's awesome. I'm going to add the style sheet now. So usually we put this in a CSS folder. So CSS, boom. Inside the CSS folder. So right now it's highlighted. I can just click the plus button here, and it's going to create the file inside the folder.css. Style CSS. In here, I would start with a basic reset star, margin padding 0. I'm going to type that out. Margin 0, padding, not auto, 0. And we're going to do the box model to box sizing, border box change, because it changes the way the padding is added. In and around boxes, actually, it subtracts the entire width towards the inside rather than adding it on the outside. That could really mess up my, let's say, my HTML dimensions. And then it goes on and on. Like here we have now Copilot. We can say accept. This is just changing the font to Arial, background color to something else. Color for text is some gray, and line height 1.6. So let's hit tab on this. Save. So now nothing changed here in the preview, and that's absolutely normal because we have not actually linked to the style sheet. So we go to index.html. I'm clicking on the line with the title and enter to get a new line. And yeah, we can now say, so if you didn't have Copilot, you can just type link and it gives you an Emmet abbreviation. So we have link, the normal link that defaults to style sheet, but you can also go to CSS and it does put style.css in here. The only difference right now is it's not actually in that location. This would assume it's in the same folder, but we know it's in the CSS folder. So I'll type CSS/ and voila. So now you can see the template just changed on the right. Super awesome. So yeah, so that means I have both my files connected and I can see my preview. Also, it's giving me a port number here, emulating a web server. So this is very practical for testing, let's say, JavaScript related things, loading asynchronous content, let's say from loading an API JSON files and stuff like that, connecting to remote servers. So this will all work from your offline location because it's running a web server. Only issue maybe that it's not HTTPS. Oh no, that doesn't matter. It's still going to work. And yeah, so let's go ahead and do an actual HTML structure that looks like something else. So we're going to say we're going to have a header. The header could contain a navigation. I'm going to have 3 links. I'm going to use the Emmet shortcut. I know we have a lot of shortcuts here saying, okay, home, about, contact. I guess that's exactly what I was going to type. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just going to hit tab on this. But I'll show you another trick. So if you go for, or if you don't have Copilot, you can just say ul li times 3, and then it gives you this. Now here I have my cursor in the top line. I can do multi-line editing, so I'm holding Shift and the Alt key, and I click on the bottom row, and then I have a giant cursor, and I can just type in one setting. Actually, we can just use Emmet and can say a link, boom. Now the HTTP is wrong, and it's going to be hashtag, hashtag something something, which I will replace after, and then here also something something. So now you can see this was quite quick, and I will say this would be home. Just have to, do a little bit of typing. So this is how you would do it the old school way before AI, but like I said, it's just a little bit more typing. Now the Copilot kind of nailed it with the 3 links that we're going to have in the navigation. Now this doesn't look good, it's just a vertical list right now, but later on we're going to link these to specific areas, and then it's going to seamlessly work. Let's say the H1 can actually be in a main tag. So let's type main. Inside of main, I'm going to have an article. That's the main article. So now what I could do, I'm going to cut and paste the H1 into the article. I'm not going to go with the suggestion here. Oops. I'm trying to get rid of the auto suggest. I guess I can't. I have to use the cursor key to undo or click away. So now you can see we have a main section, and at the bottom we'll have a footer. Footer, we're going to have a copyright, your company. It must have learned from me because that's what I always put. Obviously that's a placeholder, right? So you could replace it with your name or company name. The copyright symbol, this is using the HTML entity codes. But we do also have ways to just copy and paste this directly as a special character. and it would work as well, but this is basically a fallback for older browsers, so we're going to keep this one. What else? Oh, I kind of wanted to have a sidebar, so let's say we're going to have a section here, additional section. Yeah, why not? This is the additional section. So all this stuff is now unstyled. I'm going to link now these respective categories or links. We have home, so usually we have an ID that we put for home. Let's say all the way at the top we could say ID equals top. Then I'm going to have an ID here on the main. This will be ID about. Actually, we're going to put it on the article. We're going to say ID equals about. Oh, this is the auto-suggest doing something silly. I need to lowercase this, and on the section, or maybe on the footer, we could say ID contact lowercase. And it doesn't come up. Okay, so I'll type it. So very well. Now this looks like nothing yet. Also, yeah, it's just basically a vertical list of the text. But this would be a kind of a good structure to start with. We can add images and gallery and audio video players if you need that kind of content. Otherwise, we'll save and switch over to the style CSS, and this is now where the fun begins. So now I guess I close the Explorer and I'll go from here. We had the body somewhat defined, the background color. Like I said, we could change it to something else, like I guess we could also do a dark theme. I'm not sure. Maybe something more stylish, like a teal. Oh well, should still be light. All right. Now I'm going to go start. So we have a header. This is now saying header, but I'm going to type it by hand. Header, just to do a little bit something else. And it's still saying background. I guess I could take the background color, the padding. So I'm going to transform the navigation to be a horizontal navigation. So we have like 3 links on one line. They could also be replaced with icons later, or we can add icons in addition. The font color right now doesn't do anything here, so that's kind of silly. The padding is set to 10px, but only for top and bottom. I'm going to remove the 0, so it's going to go all around instead for all 4 sides, top, right, bottom, left. So this is what padding 10px is doing right now. This kind of pushes it inward. Another thing that we might want to do is adding some additional or general padding. So we can maybe take that out of this definition. I'll just say header, main, footer. So these are the 3 main containers. They will all have a padding of 10 pixels. And therefore I can actually remove it from the header line because we don't want redundancy in the code. Let's go down to the next section. So I had a nav tag UL, and this is trying to do something silly. I'm not going to go with that. I'll go directly to the list element to do margin right, which is spacing on the, between the links at the top. And that looks nice. We could still put text align center on the header. Text align center. This will center the entire link list, which I think looks a bit nicer. For the font, we can do a new definition here. Nav, UL, list and A. Color white, text decoration none. That takes down the underline, takes off the text decoration underline, and font weight bold. Right. Now we're going to put a hover, which is nav. You see, it's already reading my mind. It's crazy. We're not going to do underline. I mean, people sometimes do that, but I don't really like that. I'm just going to say we're going to make it change color. color. Maybe some kind of orange, dark orange. Let's see what that looks like. Yes, awesome. All right. Next, I'm going to start with the main section. Main, not margin, top. Background color. Ghost white. So now, based on this color, if I hover over this tile, I can add a little bit of transparency. See what that would look like. Kind of want to see if it's a little bit like lighter than the background color. It's kind of see-through, so later if I add a background image, it kind of looks through it, but it kind of safeguards the text that's on top. So you can always make sure it's the contrast is good enough to read the text. All right, to be able to read the text. The section, that's the sidebar. We have an article and a section. So now instead of, I guess we could use either flex or grid. I'm going to choose the grid section, which means on the main, I'm going to say display grid. We have to define the grid template columns. We could now say 1FR, 1FR. This would be basically 50-50 split between article and the section sidebar, but I kind of don't like this. So we could now hard code it and say 2 versus 1. But this is kind of also maybe not as stylish, I'm not sure. Because when we resize this, we still have to add a media query to break up the, or maybe we'll just do that. I think it's okay. So for desktop, it's going to have a main area that's a little bit wider. So we should add some more text here. And then, yeah, for the sidebar, a little slimmer. So 2 versus 1. Maybe that's good for now. And I'm going to switch back to my index HTML. I'm going to add some placeholder text. So let's say here, this is a basic HTML structure. I'm going to say, yeah, below this, we can add another p tag. Inside, I'll say lorem 100. This gives me 100 words. In here, if you get to this issue where we have to scroll sideways, Alt-Z will give you word wrap. I'm going to see that is here in view at the bottom, word wrap. Wrapping the text like that. And it's easier to edit the actual paragraph. All right, that's good for this section. Now I'm switching back to the style. Let's start with the footer. Oh yeah, and then of course we could add more padding to a section. That's optional, of course, to have another set of padding within the main area. I feel like though I'm going to keep it for now. Instead, I'm going to define a gap, so between the article and the section or sidebar, there won't be. It's like it's listening to me. Gap 20 pixels. Yeah, it won't get too close, so this will look a bit nicer. Just adding a gap for the grid. How would I do the media query? I guess we can say add media screen. Oops. And max width. So this is now suggesting the and max width. I guess I'll hit tab on this. 768 grid template columns 1, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. So if we get to a smaller screen, it will remove the sidebar and just float everything underneath. It's kind of the mobile behavior. Zip. And other than that, it looks not bad. All right. Media query, I guess we'll keep it at the bottom here, so additional space, and the footer needs some minimal styling. Footer, text align center, sure. The color is white. Didn't we define the color, the text color? Oh yeah, because it's the opposite, so it's the dark gray. Text align center, yeah, color white. The one thing that bugs me a little bit is the margin top, so I'll take that off. And now the issue that we often have is the color being cut off here. I mean, that depends on the height of the page, depending on your content. So let's say if it was slimmer, you wouldn't notice it because it pushes it all the way down to the edge, bottom edge of the browser, of the window, and yeah. So one thing that's annoying is usually the default behavior of a hashtag anchor link. When we click, now it abruptly jumps back and forth. So let's add the smooth scrolling. That is something we will add to the HTML tag at the top. HTML scroll behavior smooth. Yeah, that's the one. Scroll behavior smooth. Now we have that, and it means we can easily click on these links and it's going to transition nicely between them without having to use some fancy CSS or JavaScript. Lastly, I kind of want to add the scroll to top button. I'm going to say P A hashtag top, and he will say, I guess we could make it a button, or we just say ampersand up arrow. I'll just say top to top. Now we have that link. It looks a little ugly though, like a lot ugly. So I'm going to click on style CSS. I'll say footer A, text decoration none. Yeah. We could also make it a button. Just put like a button style. Button tag. I don't want to. Text decoration none. All right. We don't see the hover here. I mean the cursor pointer. Oh, we do. It's just flickering. Zoop. All right. So this is kind of nice, and adding an image. Could now go to the browser. Maybe something. The daily space picture from NASA, picture of the day, astropics. Wow. So today is September 30th, 2025. I'm gonna link to this picture, or we'll save it. I can save it basically directly to the desktop, HTML base. I'm creating a new folder in here that's called IMG, and inside we'll save this picture, comment lemon de winter. Image credit. I'm going to copy this and I'll put this in the footer of my website. That's index.html. Maybe here I'll do another p tag. I'll paste that in image credit and copyright. I'll say NASA. That's the link was nasa.gov. Okay. .gov. All right. Always post your sources. That's very important, especially if they have copyright. And yeah, I'm including this picture here, which is now in my Explorer. You can see there's an IMG folder with the image inside, and then we'll embed it inside of the article. I'll say p img. So the p tag is just so we get a line break. Img, I hit enter on that, and then we'll point to img slash Comet Lemon de Winter. There is the photo. Now obviously it's gonna, you know, bust open the entire article, as we have to still define it. So I could now say width 300 or something in here, which would fix the width to much smaller, but it's not recommended as it's not really responsive or dynamic in any way. Instead, I'll say in here, main article img. So these are just general CSS terms, and we're not really working with class or IDs much, which I can always do in addition, but for now it's just gonna run on the general selectors without the need to put class or ID names. All right, so this is looking mighty fine. So now with the width 100%, it always makes sure it's following the available space. As you can see now, the switch with the sidebar. And yeah, back and forth. This looks a bit strange. The image credit. So here, for example, now the secondary p tag, the text here is quite huge. So I could either shrink down the entire font size on the footer. We're going to refer to the font size in the footer with EM, so 0.9. Let's do a smaller even, 0.8 EM. So this is now taking the parent element's font size, and we should probably double check because we did not define the font size. So this is going to go with the root font size, the 16 pixels that are standard, which we could now increase. Font size to deviate, right? Instead of 16 pixels, that's basically what it already has. You could say 18 pixels to make it a bit bigger. And so now the 0.8 EM will be calculated based on this new font size of 18 pixels. And therefore you are in full control if you ever want to change it. But also we could ignore the parent element and just go to REM directly. So it's going to go with the 16 pixels that are standard on the root element, and then it's going to say 80% of that, or 0.8. So yeah, so the choice is yours with that. We could now maybe lastly make the button a bit more obvious at the bottom. So I could wrap things. Let's say I want to wrap the top up arrow part inside of a button tag. So you select everything, Control-Shift-P, wrap, and there's the Emmet wrap with abbreviation. I'll click that and I see button, boom, and we get the button. Of course, the button is not styled either, so we could say now button. I guess we don't have to give it an ID, we'll just style buttons in general. Button, background color, I'm going to scroll down here so we can see it live. Background gray. We're going to say, well, the color is white. I was going to say padding, 5 pixels. I'm going to say, okay, don't see the button. Border none, that's a good idea, and it always scrolls up. Actually, if I click on contact, it will stay down. Okay, border none. Border radius 7 pixels. Now we're going to say margin top or maybe both margin and top and bottom. We can just say for top and bottom 10 pixels and 0 for left and right. All right, gives it some space. I don't know if it has cursor pointer. It doesn't seem to. Yeah, it does now. Okay. All right. Let's give it some hover. Button hover. Background dark orange. That's kind of what I defined above for links. I think that looks somewhat nice. Obviously, this is missing now an entire screen design, which I should probably do in addition. But I can, I can take it from this structure. I could say now, cool, we have some base styling that I can turn into something really fancy. And that also kind of goes along with the content, whichever content it's going to be. One thing you should maybe consider, so because right now this is neat and small in this little window, but if we're on a big screen, there's going to be issues. Things will get stretched apart, especially for the grid section. And yeah, I should probably check this out in the browser. So now I have two options. I could copy the entire address from here, and this will also work in, let's say, in Firefox or Chrome. But look at what this looks like. So this is zoomed in or zoomed out a little bit, but it's so stretched out that I might consider putting a max width on the entire HTML page. I would do so though in the, I guess on the body, or we could use the header main footer to say just max width, yeah, 1200 pixels. That's what it's suggested here. Oop. Now if I reload, well, I don't have to reload actually. Yeah, it keeps it kind of neat and compact. But if I scale down here, so I can use the development tools to simulate with the, not the inspector, the responsive mode. And yeah, you can kind of see, boop, it scales in and out nicely. I have my links that are scrolling nicely as well. Boop. And in addition, we could center the whole thing by adding a weird old school CSS, which is the margin 0 auto and position relative. So once you have that, all these elements, header, main, and footer, will be pushed in the middle as it's going to make their position relative of their current position in the HTML, which means they can move freely, but also the margin 0 and auto basically, yeah, for top and bottom nothing, which means 0, and then auto means left and right keep the same distance. Thus, it pushes it in the middle. Beautiful, practical. But yeah, it's at this point it looks more like yeah, like a base theme, like I said, that's what we called it, base template. And then I would take this and actually, take a screenshot of this, put this into Figma or Photoshop, and then start designing on top of that. Now the structure is coded, and then, yeah, we can add a whole tons more features and, mobile navigation, as this one is still using these links. They could be replaced with icons and stuff. Anyway, so that's that. I hope you enjoyed it.
Chicken noodle code. Chicken noodle code.